In this tutorial, we will start by debugging a PyGame template to get used to the code needed to run a PyGame application. And we will then extend it to make what's known as a drunken walk. We could call this an artificial intelligence program since there's no player input, but it's not very intelligent because it just staggers around randomly. However, it will show that we can do animation. So the first thing we need to do is to go to Replit and log in. And I'm here logged in as a student. I'm going to go to Teams. And I should have Birkdale School available. And then I'm going to have a look at the PyGame team projects. And we're going to start off with number 2, Drunken Walk game loop. So when this code loads up, you will notice that it opens up a readme.md file, the readme markdown. And that is appearing over here. The preview is switched on. So with preview off, I just see the console and shell. With preview on, I get to see some instructions. And this is explaining what makes up a standard PyGame program. There is, first of all, a setup sequence in which we declare and initialize a few things, and then there is the game loop, which repeatedly goes through a number of stages. Now, when you load up these Teams projects, they will always start up with a README file. You will normally go to the main.py, where you will find any supplied code. So you need to be able to see these files at the side, and you're looking for main.py. If I now try to run this code, you will see that it's come up with a syntax error, and there are several syntax errors in this exercise that we're going to walk through and learn how to fix. So, the first thing is that it thinks it has invalid syntax starting with the word PyGame. Quite often when you see a syntax error, it might not be the thing that it's pointing to, the P of PyGame here. It could be something before this, sometimes the previous line, sometimes several lines back. In this case, the problem is the word import. So import is fairly meaningless. Notice that it's in black. It hasn't recognized it as a proper Python keyword. If I change it to import, then import turns blue because it is recognized. And we have to start an import PyGame as the first thing that we do. I'm going to click on run again, and its next problem is a syntax error on line 8. So we have here green is 0, 255 and 0. And it reckons the problem is starting with the 2 there. And the reason for this is because when we declare our colours, we give 3 numbers with commas between, and I've missed the commas here. So it should be 0, 255, 0. And that should be a properly declared set of colour values. If I run again, we've now got a problem on line 9. And again, it's a syntax error starting at the point 5. And the reason it's got a problem here, we have declared x, y, which is 2 different variables, but we've only given it one number, 10.5 here. So I've accidentally used a full stop rather than a comma between these values. I'll try run again. And this time, invalid syntax at line 22. And it reckons it's happening at this equals sign here. And the reason for that, as you can see at line 18, when we're asking a question, if event type is the same as something, we need to use a double equals sign. The double equals is a comparison. So if event type double equals PyGame.keyDown, then we know that a key has been pressed. And I'll just scrunch up this here so we can see their code a little bit wider. Okay, so I'll try running again. And this time it is not happy with line 25. On line 25, it's complaining about this closing curly bracket. And you can see that I opened a square bracket here and then accidentally closed a curly bracket here. So brackets, always in pairs, should match up. And you'll see that it's actually highlighting the two brackets that match each other there. And then the round ones outside, if I click there, it highlights and shows where the starting pair is. So it's very helpful there in showing where your pairs of brackets are coming from. This time it seems to be compiling, but nothing has actually happened. And the reason that nothing has happened is there's a clue in this bit here. It's highlighting this undefined name PyGame. So the library that was imported is PyGame all in lowercase, and therefore the library that we are calling on should be PyGame .init there. So we import PyGame and then we use PyGame.init all in lowercase there. If I run that, then we have indeed got a PyGame window open, but nothing is really happening in it. And again, we can see there's a bit of a complaint here. It says there's an undefined name black. And black, we declared at line 7 in capitals, and then we've declared, we've used a version that's not all in capitals here. So, down here, name error, black is not defined. So we need to make sure that we are being careful with our capitalization. All Python keywords are in lowercase. We should normally declare constants in uppercase. Okay, and then another name error, name true is not defined at line 16. And you can see that true here is in black, it doesn't recognize it. But if I put a capital T on there, it turns blue. And it looks as if we might now have some successful code. So if I click in this window here, we still have a problem. So draw rectangle at line 25, it's not happy with pygame.draw.rectangle, and it has no attribute rectangle. And that's because I've been a bit ambitious there. It's actually called a rect. Now, one of the things to watch out for, if you press keys, then they will use the console window down here. So we always have to make sure we click into the PyGame window and then try doing something here, and nothing's happening. Because there's one final and quite subtle problem that we have to catch here, and that is to show the screen. So I'm going to stop this and have a look at why that's not working. Up here I've got screen.fill black, and that's been fixed now to use the correct colour. I've now used pygame.draw.rect, and that looks to be fine, and it's got a properly created list of values at the end. However, on line 26, I have pygame.display.flip. And you notice if I mouse over it, it says flip brackets, points at none. This is a function, and therefore it needs to have opening and closing parameter brackets, even if they are empty. Otherwise, it will not actually use the correct code. And if I try running this now, you can see that I do indeed get my block in the corner. If I am in this screen down here and press the keys, then they will use the console window. If I'm up here and click in PyGame window, then we can see that I've got events happening here. So that seems to be working fine now. One thing I will do to make things a bit easier is I'll switch the resolution down to 400 by 300, which will fit in that small window a lot better. And I'm going to try now to turn this into a drunken walk. So the first thing I need to do is going to check on my README file and have a look in the markdown window here at what I'm trying to do. So the game loop for Drunken Walk, I now need to check out import random. I want to add some randomness to what's going on. So back in main, above import PyGame, I'm going to put import random. And then my XY, instead of starting at 10,5, I'm going to give it some random values to start at. So I'm going to say use the random library that I've just imported and use .randint. And randint will choose a number between A and B. It wants two values here. Well, across the way for X is going to be between 0 and 400. And then we've got a comma, and then we're going to give it the Y value, and that's going to be random.randint, and that's going to be between 0 and 300. So obviously different values being used in the code here for a larger screen. So we've set up a new starting point, and what I now need to do, let's scroll this down a bit here, instead of adding 40 and 30 at these lines 23 and 24 here, I'm going to add on a random amount. So I'm going to go here, and instead of 40, I'm going to put random dot rand range. And notice it's popped this up here. I think I can just press the space bar, no, the enter key. Rand range brackets wants a start and a stop. And the start value I'm just going to say is -10, and the end value is 10. Again, I'm halving what I had in this larger screen. The same kind of thing for Y, random.randrange, and then from -10 to 10. So it's going to choose a number between those. It could be a positive or a negative number up to 10. And when I run this now, we should see that every time I press a key, it's randomly staggering around. And there is one thing that's therefore missing from all of this. If I go back to my README file and look at the markdown, there is here screen.fill black before I try to draw the square. Otherwise, it's drawing additional squares each time I move. So back to main. And I want to add in, just before I draw anything, same indentation level, screen.fill with black. One more run, and every time I press, so if I'm up in this PyGame window, I need to click in here first of all. So I'll do a click, and then every time I press a key, I stagger about a little bit randomly.